Got to update my profile stream and I just launched it on Twitch. So sorry about that if you subscribe over there. I think we can get started here. Got some really fun stuff. Wow. Really fun stuff. Whoa. Wow. Wow. That was a disaster. Oh, that was awesome. All right. I'll have to cut that out afterwards. Let's start. All right, guys. How's everybody doing in this fabulous Friday morning? Everything has been pretty great. I've actually gotten some really cool stuff done this past couple weeks. Things I've been building up to and working on for months now. And it just kind of all is kind of accumulating down to that point. So that's what is going on. I absolutely love a lot of the foundation work I've laid. And if you guys aren't familiar, I kind of put links down over here to like the members portal, the store. I've been working with Digital Sparky. He's probably in chat here. And just kind of going over some of the changes, or not really changes, but just improvements over everything in the channel. I've actually launched my very first, a lot of people always asking about like pre-built ISOs and those types of things for customizations I've done. I'm doing my very first one of those this upcoming Sunday, just for like members. If you're a member over on the portal, just log in. You should have access to it, to where you can actually download that image. It's a Clonezilla image, and a lot of people don't understand how Clonezilla works, so I have two upcoming videos. Tomorrow's video, which I normally don't have a Saturday video, is just going over Clonezilla. It's an awesome open source free technology. Windows users, Linux users, everyone uses it. It's just not exactly the most user friendly, so I thought, hey, I'll make a tutorial video how to actually back up with Clonezilla. Why I love Clonezilla is you can do an external device, like a little USB device, which is fantastic, or you can actually back it directly up to like a NAS box. I have a Synology network attached storage back there where I can just back up any system directly to it and restore directly from it as well, all from live media. So those are some cool upcoming things happening. Both Saturday and Sunday we'll have a video. Saturday, Clonezilla. Sunday is going to be customizing PopOS. And we have a lot of, I put PopOS in the actual thumbnail here because there's a lot of different things happening with PopOS. I'm going over how to customize it to basically strip it out and make it look identical to Mac. That's what Sunday's video is about. But in the news today, we're going to be talking about some improvements that team has made to tiling window managers and also some other cool projects in PopOS. But big news for the week, by far, AMD has just dominated the news cycle this week. It has been ridiculous what they've put out. I way beyond my expectations, and if they can actually just deliver on what they said, it will be game changing. So wow, I never thought the day would come where I'm like, wow, okay, well, Intel is definitely sitting in the back seat, and that's where we're at right now with that. However, I'm more concerned with the graphics card side of things to see what happens on that. They started releasing a couple specs, and I was pleasantly surprised. We'll see if that actually comes out or not, and I'll actually pull up the actual news article real fast. This is The Verge, so take it with a grain of salt. But let's just jump over on the desktop real fast and take a look. And you'll see that the RX 6000 Big Navi series, the big thing here was just the FPS. 4K gaming FPS was pretty much on par with the 3080 from NVIDIA. That's huge. Like, I didn't think they could even come close to the 3080. I was just going to buy it and say, okay, well, hopefully it's between, a little bit better than the 3070. But this was kind of crazy. And the pairing with the new Zen 3 architecture from AMD, I think we can go with a full Team Red system that will be competitive with any other system out there. So my next gaming rig, it's been a while. A lot of people know I'm kind of cheap. And the reason why is I was just like, it's like a 5% performance increase, but a huge amount of money to plop down for a new gaming rig or just a new rig in general. But this is amazing. Just seeing this portion, I'm definitely going RDNA 2 because of the cluster F that NVIDIA has left for us with the 3000 series, and I'm just really not a huge NVIDIA fan, as many know. But I wanted to just kind of go ahead and just say this portion of it is better than I anticipated, and it looks like they're going to be competitive. Obviously, they don't have ray tracing and those NVIDIA technologies, but most competitive gamers don't even care about that. They just care about FPS, and we'll see what happens with this, but keep an eye on it. If you want to look and read over this, I left a link in the description as well. And yeah, the Zen 3 architecture, though, this was really, really powerful. A massive architecture change that it will be much more efficient. Initial reports are almost 20% performance increase from the last generation coming from Zen 2. So this is a game changer. I don't even see a point of even recommending Intel anywhere now with the new architecture coming out from Zen 3. So AMD's running away with it, which I'm okay with because Intel has kind of done me wrong several times to where, hey, that's awesome to see. But I wanted to go over that real fast. And then if you have any questions, let me know in chat too, because it has been such a great week. I just got to tell you that. I've been just so jazzed to see all the new improvements, both personally and also just technology field. It's just been a fantastic week in this regard as far as news, which, I don't know if y'all know, but 2020 needed something like this. As far as the other news, I have PopOS and Linux Mint as well. So for the Linux side of things, we have some other news on this front. The shell theme has actually just been updated just a couple days ago, and they do stacking and tiling. And why this is important is most people know I love my little tiling window manager that I do, to where, if I'm on here, I can launch a whole bunch of different tiling window managers, quit. It's a really efficient way of actually doing your work. But to see PopOS here implement this in a noob friendly, where someone could just install PopOS, toggle tiling mode on, and have that functionality, just try it out and have it so accessible is really a game changer. And I love this. So if you're on PopOS, by all means, check out tiling. And in that same vein, you can also try Material Theme, which you guys know that I'm a huge proponent of it. Well, I'm using like an awesome window manager, and it's not exactly the most user-friendly at all to set up. But this one you can actually install on any known desktop environment. It doesn't have to be PopOS. It could be Ubuntu. It could be a whole variety of them. But check out this project as well. Again, links are in the show notes. This one is awesome. I absolutely love it. I hate GNOME just because it feels kind of sluggish to me. So that's why I don't really use these things. I've moved on from it. But for those just coming into this environment and want to try out tiling window managers, these two projects just kind of change the game as all. So, it's something to try out if you've never tried tiling window managers. Both the PopOS shell and Material Shell are great, easy ways to get involved in this, try out the new workflows, and just see, hey, do you like it or not? And if you do, hey, then you can expand on this. You can go full neck beard, as I like to call it, where you go fully on to the tiling window manager theme, which that's what I've been on for a year now. And I just will never go back to traditional stacking windows and floating windows as most people are on. And then finally, the last bit of Linuxy news that I really wanted to cover was Linux Mint. A lot of times, you guys know how much I love Linux Mint, and all Windows users coming to Linux, I'm like, hey, try Linux Mint. It's very familiar. You'll love it. But they got flack with the 20 release because they basically disabled snap packs altogether because it's proprietary and all the things that I've said, hey, while I hate snaps, the Linux Mint team was kind of in agreement. They were just like, hey, this is not good for the Linux community as a whole. So they blocked snap packs and got some flack for it. Clem and their team do an excellent job. And a lot of people were like, hey, the whole reason why Ubuntu did snaps was the Chromium package and some other things just kept changing around. And everyone just was like, hey, put up or shut up about this. And Clem and the team just said, hey, okay, well, we'll just package Chromium directly in. So if you're on Linux Mint coming, I believe in December, they're actually doing this, or mid-December, they're actually packaging Chromium in to where you don't need to add a PPA, you don't need to add anything. You can just type apt install Chromium, and it'll work just fine. So that's kind of a cool thing. I love that because a lot of the community was like, hey, this is why snap packs exist. And Clem and them just said, hey, okay, well, we can just do it traditionally through regular repositories. And that's what they're doing. So amazing all the way around. Let me know your thoughts, because it's one of those things that I love about Linux is when people just come out and make something amazing and just say, here you all go. And that's what they did with the Linux Mint team and what they did with Chromium package. I thought it was amazing. So I love it. It's great. It's a good way to just say, hey, trolls, here you go. You got nothing to complain about now, which is great. Yeah, that was great. That's the news of the week. If you guys have any questions, let me know. I'm going to pull up chat real fast. I just wanted to get through that part of the news because it was just beyond amazing. I have nothing more to add to how great this week has been for tech and also Linux as a whole. And yeah, it was great. I have not checked out Fedora 33. I need to. I love Fedora. I just haven't had time. I've been just so focused on little projects here and there. And a little bit scatterbrained. I've been trying to get a lot of things tied up on the back end. But I will say personally, I'm changing a lot of, you probably noticed like my videos for the last couple months have been like 2 a week and a little bit sporadic. And now I'm going to be able to amp up that production now that I've got a lot of my back-end stuff pretty much on lock, which is great. So that's one thing I've been working on, but it's been a long haul, about 2 months worth of it. So thank you all for bearing with me and dealing with it. Also, in the crypto realm, you guys noticed that I did that whole Bitcoin video yesterday. It was really well received. I was kind of surprised about that, saying Bitcoin would fail, and a lot of people... Actually, it has over a 90% like to dislike ratio, which I thought was just unachievable. And that I really wanted to make that video because everything I saw was people just hyping up Bitcoin and just saying, hey, buy it, it's going to $1 million, all this stuff. And I was like, this does not sound right. I think people will take this the wrong way and invest more than they should. And I really like the... Mark Cuban said something I thought was really good, and he said, hey, I put about 10% of my net worth into crypto, but it's money I already anticipate that's gone. And if it goes somewhere, great. If it doesn't, it's okay. He doesn't put more than he's willing to lose, and that's how I treat it as well. So, is there a control panel similar to NVIDIA, but for an AMD GPU? T-Chili, there's a couple different things out there you can do. There's a profile. There's nothing like a real full-on control panel like NVIDIA has. I'm curious to see what happens. The open source community is a little bit behind the ball on that one, but I believe something will come up. There's a couple projects that I haven't really tried out yet, but I'll make a video coming up about that. Actually, I'm going to put it on my to-do list right now because that's something that it needs to be talked about. As AMD's slowly, it takes a couple of years really to get that ball rolling, but now that AMD's had those open source drivers in Linux for several years, since 2018, I want to say, a lot of more open source projects are coming to be. And let me add that real quick. AMD profile for Linux, or actually AMD control panel is what I should put. When is HDR coming to Linux? Julian, It depends on. I need to touch on HDR and screen tearing because those are two big issues in Linux when it comes to excessive screen tearing, which is prominent. A lot of these things I think are being addressed in recent updates, but I'll do a video specifically talking about those shortcomings, as I know like the hardcore gamers and those that are really appealing to the visual aspects of things are always asking about that, and you know, it's something that I will definitely check out and get back to y'all on. And I will also cover Window Tiling Manager on Windows 10. It's okay. I tried one open source project that was on Windows 10. It was terrible. It was not really a true tiling window manager at all. I know Power Toys, I think, is a Microsoft product or software that is being done that will bring tiling window manager to those Windows users. It's still in the early phases, much like Windows Terminal, but it is starting to mature a bit. And it's worthy of a video now. I need to go and try that on my Windows PC, make sure everything still works, and I'll do a video on Windows tiling managers. I actually did one on Mac, which I was talking about Amethyst and some other ones that were actually pretty good. I always get that question as well. A lot of Windows users use auto hotkey or AHK scripts, which I use quite a bit of. They're really good. I will say, as far as like the bash scripts and those types of things in Linux, they're also really good. Utilizing some of those scripts and writing them, I find Linux to be a bit more powerful. And that's how I actually managed this whole stream was through auto hotkey-isk kind of ways, which, you know, let me go ahead and I think I can pull it up on my main screen here and show you all kind of what auto hotkey type scenario would look like in Linux. So let me just go, I think it's, oh, where did I put this? Media backup, Synology Drive, Stream Deck. And I need to do a full video on this. I think I put this on my GitHub as well. So if you're interested in it, check out GitHub. And this is how I do a lot of my auto hotkey-esque things in Linux. That's how I set up my whole Stream Deck here with an open source project. And then I just have it fire off. When I press a button, it'll fire off a bash script. Like, let's say I want to go ahead and send it from the primary screen here to chat. I'll go ahead and chat for you real fast. And you'll see it's using XDO tool, and it's basically scanning all the open programs for OBS class, and then go, okay, I'll go ahead and grab the ID using a head, and then once that does that, it goes ahead and activates that, and then sends an actual keystroke to it. So what it's doing is it's bringing that window to the forefront and activating it, and then it sends a keystroke directly to it using XDO tool key, and then that automatically always registers that keystroke and changes my scene pretty seamlessly. So I'll go ahead, hit it right over here, and you see that whole script fire off and work, which is a great way to do it. Much like auto hotkey is in Windows, it just works a little bit different, and it works on a better global level because it's pretty much integrated in, and you can do all kinds of shenanigans with it. As you saw, I tied it into a Stream Deck over here, which is just kind of a neat way of doing things as well. Should I switch Windows Defender to free Bitdefender? That's up to you. I like Bitdefender. It's one of the better of all the free antiviruses. Windows Defender's not bad these days, which I never thought I'd say in my life. So don't feel like you have to switch from Windows, and you're not going to see a massive difference in protection compared to Bitdefender to Windows. Bitdefender is a little bit better, but it depends on what you're looking at as far as detection rates and those types of things. I'm still not a big fan of Windows Defender. My recommended antivirus is ESET right now in the description. You can click on that if you're interested in a paid antivirus. But as far as the free one, both that Windows Defender, I honestly think you'd get a little more protection if you wanted to just stick on the free realm, sticking with Windows Defender, but also adding like malware bytes to it, which is a little bit different from a traditional antivirus, and having those in tandem is actually not a bad idea. So for those Windows users out there, if you want to stick to all free software, I would say that's what I would do if I was really worried about viruses. Obviously, I watch what I do, and at the end of the day, the user is the vulnerability. The user is the one that's going to install the viruses. You know, if for those folks that want to go claim their millions from their Nigerian prince, there's no antivirus that's going to fix that. You're going to get infected eventually, no matter what you do. Did you see there was a way to install Windows 10 Store apps by CMD? Yes, I have. Actually, a Coco is actually a pretty good one that I noticed that did it as well. I have been tinkering around with using Windows Server Core. It's a video I don't know if I'll make because it's such a niche thing, but it's something that I'm really kind of interested in. Much like I do my Linux installs, a lot of times I'll start from a server level where it's just a bare bones CLI environment and then build on top of it. I wanted to try something like that in Windows, where I'll take like a Windows Server Core, which if you're not familiar, that's a CLI environment, I would say. Not fully CLI because it's Windows after all, but there is no like Explorer, or there is no web browser built in or actually installed on Windows Server Core. So I wanted to see how far along I could build that out, and with a newer version of Windows Server Core using WSL2 and doing, and this is kind of blasphemy, and this is all in theory right now as I haven't actually done this, but here's the thought process: is to do the core, do like a Coco or a WinGit, grab your software through a traditional package manager. We're still in the Windows kernel though, and then use the front end to develop using WSL2 and Linux desktop environments to build on top of it. So then you could run all your games. You're kind of in Linux, kind of using a Windows kernel, and you don't have all the bloat. How well this will work, I don't know. Again, it's just a project that I kind of have in the back of my mind that I've been working on that I haven't actually put in practice yet. I just haven't had the time. But something fun that I have kind of going in the background while also just kind of building out all the other stuff as well. What can you recommend for me, Manjaro or Arch? It depends on what you want to do. Do you want to really learn about Linux? If you really want to learn about Linux, I think Arch is great. If you want to just kind of an easy, if this is your first Linux distribution, I would recommend Manjaro just because the easy use is not going to drive you completely crazy. It just works pretty much out of the gate. Just know that it is still Arch-based. Manjaro is just a derivative of Arch. And you have to watch out for using too much from the AUR. Updates can be problematic if you're not updating your system every month or every week. Leaving it for extended periods of time without updates will typically break like a Manjaro or Arch install if you're not careful, or you have too much in your Arch user repository and it builds out bad scripts or outdated scripts. You got to really watch it. I made a really good video on this, and I'll link it in chat. If you're going to use an Arch-based distribution, do this. Otherwise, you're going to end up... I made an entire video just saying, hey, don't break Arch. And I think it was Arch maintenance. Let me see if I can't grab that for y'all. Yeah, here it is. A little bit older video, February of 2019, but still good stuff in here. Definitely watch out for that. If you want something more stable, obviously Debian is just recommended for stability. But I love Arch. It's not something that I don't. It's one of those things that's great to learn. I learned the most about Linux desktop by installing Arch Linux. Pi-hole. Yeah, Pi-hole is really interesting. It blocks all the advertisements. I used to use pfSense a lot in my front end as like the gateway and router for my network. You can actually take those Pi-hole blockers and a lot of the scripts from Pi-hole and inject it directly into your pfSense gateway, And what this does is it blocks all the ads on your entire network without even having to run a separate system like Pi-hole and have a Raspberry Pi hanging off your network. You can actually do it all directly on that one box. I like that solution a bit better than having a Pi-hole, but Pi-hole's fun to tinker around with. If you've never tried it, grab a little $40 or $50 Raspberry Pi, set it up. It's a fun experiment. Just know it's basically serving a local DNS that filters out ads is what it's doing. I did notice on Pi-hole, and I don't know if this has been rectified. It's been a little bit since I used it, but on my TV, watching YouTube through my TV, there was some problems there where it wouldn't play certain videos. But yeah, mileage will vary. Try it out on your network. I always recommend that. It's a great project. I love all Raspberry Pi projects. Scotty, Linux Mint Debian Edition. I love LMDE. I think that will be the future of Linux Mint. Obviously, they don't get along too much with Ubuntu in its direction, and it's just getting the maturity out of LMDE, and really this release of LMDE has really been like a coming out of sorts for a Linux Mint team, and I see them pushing that more and more, and it's pretty much on par with the regular Linux Mint. It's just getting people to transition from like PPAs and some other Linux Mint vanilla, based on Ubuntu ones that people are used to, over to the Debian edition of Linux Mint. That will happen, and probably in the next 1 or 2 years, I really see that becoming the primary Linux Mint distribution. It's just not yet, because a lot of the guides and things still have you doing PPAs, which you can't do with the Debian edition, or really you shouldn't do, I should say. Linux Mint Chromium. That was, if you're reading the title, that was earlier in the video. I was just going over how the Chromium package is now being built into the Linux Mint repositories. Come mid-December, you don't even need to add anything. It'll just work. Just works. So that'll be pretty great. I also have some other fun things happening. I actually got contacted by a business, almost like a Citrix type spinoff, but it attacks it at a different open source perspective. Some really neat, I think it was called Chasm, which if you're not familiar with it, it's kind of a newer technology that's coming out. A lot of their stuff's open source, I believe. And it's really, really interesting how they're using containers. I'm sure you've heard of like Kaspersky, or not Kaspersky. I hate that antivirus. No Kaspersky. Drawn a blank. Is Docker, Kubernetes. It was a K word. All right, Kubernetes, Docker, a lot of those containerized storage. And you also have something called Citrix. From a business perspective, you're dealing with a lot of these technologies. Well, Chasm is kind of taking those two technologies and kind of combining them, where they're using containers and being able to pipe those containers directly to certain clients. So you could actually run a Windows-based application and pipe it to 10 different clients through just a basic container. There's a lot of neat things. I still have to tinker around with that, but it's something that I'm going to be looking at also in probably this upcoming month, which is great. Oh, yeah. I did mention Material Shell at the beginning here, Hikari, which if you're a GNOME desktop user, definitely check out Material Shell. But there was a minor update where they added some more features. I think of the vertical dock and changing around how the vertical dock works and going to like horizontal, and really pretty awesome as well. I installed re-EFI bootloader. Can I now install EFI partitions and it'll just work out of the box? Yeah, so I love re-EFI ND bootloader. I've used that to triple boot. So if you have a Mac, Windows, and Linux partition, that is the bootloader I would use. It is very easy. The thing I love most about that bootloader is you can change it on the fly. You can change the defaults on the fly as well. Let me see if I can't get the official site so people will have it in chat. Re-EFI ND bootloader. Because this bootloader really just changes things. It's actually a SourceForge project. Refined. I don't know why I have problems saying that. But check out that project. That's the bootloader I like to use for just global access to pretty much all of my OSs. Is if I'm doing Mac and Linux or Mac, Linux, Windows, all of those work great, and it auto updates quite well. Do you think that Core Boot, LibreBoot, something similar will be available to AMD Zen 3 in the near or nearish future? A way to make Zen 3 based high-end Ryzen's much more secure. I don't think it'll be in the near future, but I think it will eventually happen. I really like how Zen 3 architecture, they've simplified how the cache works, and some of the I believe they streamlined the design quite a bit with Zen 3, and we're going to see massive improvements. Like I said, I'm pretty cheap, and there's rare times where I actually buy something day one. The last day one processor purchase I had was the original Ryzen chips. Ryzen Gen 1 was the last day of where I actually went ahead and did that. So that's what's up. Thanks so much for joining, David and Scotty, earlier as well. I missed you, man, as far as joining the CTT members on here on YouTube. Much appreciated. Thank you guys for supporting me. Also, we saw the source code leak. I did see some really fun things pop up from the Windows XP source code. I touched on that last week a little bit, but Server 2003 now has guides on how to build it directly from source code, which I thought was interesting. Don't know if I can cover that on YouTube because of, well, obviously copyright issues, but it was very interesting to see those things come up. I'm curious to see if anybody takes that source code and starts to do anything with it. That's what I'm really curious about, but people have actually done a full compile and have working Windows XP and 2003 systems, so very interesting. Now, I see that one question about what do you think about secure boot? Ooh, when it comes to TPM or trusted platform modules and secure boot, this is something that I don't like, even though I understand the security aspects behind it. It's something that it's pain in the butt to deal with in Linux. That's the best way to put it. I'd much rather see more open source solutions. You can look at different, I think, a Veracrypt, I'm probably mispronouncing that or missaying that open source project, but I really like to stick with open source stuff, and like TPM I think is pretty much owned by Microsoft or Intel or a combination of the two, where I don't know if I trust it a whole 100%. I'm more worried about the evil technology overlords kind of tinfoil hat theories with that. So I'm not a huge proponent of TPM or secure boot. However, it is good for blocking a lot of virus attacks, and evil made attacks is what they're called in the security sector. So evil made attacks rely on that, basically phishing out passwords that are entered in on a computer, and secure boot helps prevent those types of things. So it depends on your TrueCrypt. Thank you, Donald. That's exactly what I was talking about. But those help with securing down specific systems. So secure boot can be good, but it is a complete pain in the butt, and it's not very Linux friendly. I love to see a rise of another alternative to secure boot. But if you're very, very security conscious, using secure boot is a good idea. So, what do you think about competitive programming from your experience? I don't know if I've ever had anything to really add to competitive programming, as far as I can't really see I've ever experienced competitive programming per se. I'll have to look up and see exactly what you mean by that. As in the business world, usually what happens is teams work together to build a project, and then that project usually gets bought out by big tech and either gets squashed or improved depending on whatever that is. Anyways, yeah, that's my thoughts on it, just off the cuff. What do you think about full disk encryption on a hard drive? It can be really good. And depending on what you're doing, I think full disk encryption makes perfect sense on laptops. I think laptops should always be done with like Luke's or something of that nature where it's completely encrypted. Because if you lose that laptop, all the person would need to do is pull out the hard drive, plug it into any system. They don't need to know passwords or anything, and they'll have all your data, which is bad. On the flip side, something like this, if someone got access to this room, the last thing I'm worried about is someone decrypting my data. A lot of times, I would be more worried about them stealing the actual physical hardware and those types of things in this room, as the data itself isn't really sensitive or worth much, per se. So in that regard, I'm not doing much encryption here locally, as I'm not really concerned for the security aspects of it. But I do love Luke's. I love BetterFS as well. I think that's a great file system. It's really come into a lot of maturity. Had a bumpy start, but BetterFS is definitely up there in my choices for Linux file systems. Still a big ZFS fanboy though, so if I use any type of like FreeNAS type system, I still love ZFS. I still put it up on a pedestal above the rest. But BetterFS has improved quite a bit, and I do love it. Gerald, auto hotkey for Linux. I touched on that a little bit earlier. Might rewind it about 10 minutes or 15 minutes when I showed bash shell scripts launching from here and using that type of thing and integrating it in your environment. You can add it to your local .bin file. You can do a lot of fun things. I actually have a bunch of scripts for my Streambox and this one to adjust my resolution on the fly, as if I'm live streaming, I want to go ahead and just kind of change things. Michael, make a note to yourself. Next time you build a studio, put the rack outside. Truer words could not be spoken. This is just a corner of my garage. I always tell this story, but I put the rack inside because I thought it would be cool to look at. But also, I don't really have any temperature control outside of the garage, so it would get too hot during the summertime. So I was like, I'll put it in the background. So even though it looks cool, if I'm really quiet and I mute the audio, you guys can see. Here, I'll just do it real fast so you guys can see what I deal with. If any other content creator ever saw this studio, they would cringe so hard because the background noise is unbearable. There's a lot of ambient noise. This is without my AC on, mind you. If you have headphones on, you can detect that, right? With the music completely off. There's that. Let me improve it a little bit more, though. Check this out. It's already getting kind of hot. Here's the AC turning on. And I can't run, obviously, a video with AC on, but just so you guys get a taste of what the problems I deal with from the sound perspective. I guess it's not that bad. Although I don't think the compressor's kicked in. When the compressor kicks in, it'll be up about another 5 decibels. And trying to get rid of that in post is problematic. And that's why my audio's been kind of janky in the past. I'm doing a lot better with my audio lately. You'll notice that the next couple of videos, audio will improve. In the next week's video, I should have audio to a lot higher level as well. Yeah, I mean, it's not bad at all. It's really a testament to the Shure SM7B and how awesome it is as a microphone as well. And doing like a split AC, I might do. Although I'm getting to the point where I'm like, this next year I would like to either build out in my backyard like a good studio with full environmental controls and a little more space, as this is, I mean, it's almost my full wingspan, which I'm not a tall person. I'm like 5'10", so I'm about average height, and I could almost touch each wall. That's how small this studio is. I make it look kind of big, but this is only 10 feet or about 3 meters long, and it's about 8 or 2 meters wide. So, I love this little space, but it is very, very cramped, and I don't really have places to put things. So usually I just resell them, or I just throw them away if it's something that's not worth anything. What's your opinion of BSD? I think BSD is going to continually improve, and it's going to just keep getting better. So do push-ups, dude. I do need to get back into working out. It's something that is probably a goal for the end of the year here. Probably the worst time to make that goal, but I'm gonna. And just start in on working out a little bit more, as, you know, health issues are really bad. Yeah. And I do want to get into, like I said, some of the new upcoming videos. I will say I will be getting more into doing more tutorials. I've kind of slowed down this last couple months and taking almost like a vacation. So this might sound kind of insensitive, but I'm gonna say it anyways. I feel like doing 2 videos a week to me is extremely easy, and it's almost felt like a vacation this past month or two, because I've been working on other stuff, trying to get research and other things done on the back end of things. But I've really kind of taken it easy, to be honest with you. I haven't been stressed out at all about YouTube, about any of it. I'll check in, I'm like, oh, cool. But it's been very, very fun for me. And it's something that I just love still making those videos. And the videos I made have been kind of sporadic. Like, the topics have been all over the place. I've touched even on like crypto a little bit. I've touched on all kinds of like Mac a little bit, just kind of exploring things. But Linux is still like my core I love, and so is Windows. Getting back into the Windows side of things, I've never really hit Windows in a way. I've just done like a debloat script and some other things that are pretty rudimentary, I feel. And doing a deeper dive and really going into the foundation, building like that Windows project I talked about earlier, is something that I really want to get more into the tutorial-based things, and probably start amping up my videos a bit, and doing probably some traditional courses and things like that as well. So we'll see what happens in the next month or two. I'm definitely working on some more written guides, and then also making images. I made, actually, let me show you this. I made an image for this, was pretty big as well. Oh man, I'm trying to think. I'm drawing a blank. I made a PopOS image for the Mac video, which is pretty big. So let me see if I can't log in here. Yeah, it's one of the very first things I did. But for those that are members, and I'll go ahead, pop over here. I made a little guide. So if you've already signed up on portal.christitus.com, you can actually go in and download this image. I'm working on a way to extract my YouTube membership and try and integrate it into here. I don't know if I'm going to be able to do that, but I'm going to try. So don't feel like you need to double sign up if you're supporting me on YouTube. It's something I'm going to see if I can't integrate in. If I can't, just know that's just a limitation. But kind of a cool thing is I wanted to make how-to guides where it would be completely free and open to everybody, to where if you want to just do like Linux on Mac, I made scripts so you could take like a bare bones GNOME, copy and paste all these in, and just strip it down and get a really easy Mac aesthetic to all your stream, and do it within probably 2 to 3 minutes. If you know what you're doing, you can easily copy paste this and have it up and going where it's almost identical to Mac, to be honest with you. So if you like that workflow, I made this whole script. And if you don't want to do that, I'll have like the full image where you can just restore an image using Clonezilla. And that's what the whole membership, where you can actually just download. It's a zip file. You extract that to portable media, plug that in, and your Clonezilla, and it would load up, and Bob's your uncle. So, and actually, I can show that real fast if people want to see this portion of it. It's kind of a neat project that I absolutely love. Let me see. Do I have that going? I did it on bare metal, guys, too. I'm starting to get away from VMs altogether. They just have... Oh, well, they just kind of annoyed me. So I'm going to go ahead and launch that and refresh this guy. This is called out-of-band remote access, too, if people aren't familiar with it. It's very common in the business realm, so if you're managing a lot of servers, you're probably very familiar with out-of-band access. Usually using, like, if you're doing Dell servers, it's like iDRAC. If you're using HP servers, it's usually called ILO or lights out. So there's a bunch of out-of-band access. This one's just kind of like the poor man's out-of-band access. This is actually free. Free Intel out-of-band access. macOS is cringe, but people love it. People love the look of the old Mac. So let's pull this up. I should update my firmware. And we'll connect. Let's see if it pulls up. Takes a little bit on first boot, but then it's fine. And you have power options where I can actually reset. It is a little bit low res, so I apologize for that. But we can go full screen. You guys can see what out-of-band access looks like real fast. And also get a sneak peek on Sunday's video of the new operating system. It should just boot right in. Famous last words, watch it not work, since we're on stream. It'd be funny. A lot of people ask me about remote access too. You have so many options available to you where you can do just about anything. I don't know what's up with this. I'm gonna have to reboot it. Let's just give it a hard reset. I don't know what happened there. But this will actually, you can boot into BIOS. You can change a whole bunch of different things using this type of out-of-band access. Let's try and load up our pop here. Might have been just me remoting in, just messing around with things. Why do Mac users always keep their windows floating? There's a lot of Mac users, actually. There's a lot of power users on Mac that don't do floating windows at all. When I made that tiling window manager video going over Amethyst, which was a free and open software, a lot of people, which is kind of crazy on Mac, a lot of people just pay for software. There's so many paid counterparts. Like in Linux, everyone's used to all free and open software. In Mac, everyone's used to just paying for everything. You want to burn a DVD or a USB, there's probably a paid software for that. If you want to have tiling window managers, there's paid software for that. There's like literally paid software for everything on Mac. That's why I always joke when it comes to Mac users is they're just so used to paying for everything. All right, I guess this isn't working. I don't know what happened there. Weird. I broke it. That's just how I do things. Oh well. You'll see it on the video. It worked in the video. That's funny. It never fails. Whenever you go to stream, something ends up not working. Like I said, every stream, I always try and break one thing. It's always fun to do. That's the thing is you never learn anything until you break something. And that's why I always encourage people, build a test environment and then try to break things. When a developer tells me, hey, make sure you don't do this, I immediately go and do the thing he said not to do because I want to see what happens. And that's not only to see if it breaks, but when it does break, how to fix it. Because that's the fun part about it. And that's where you learn the most because inevitably you're going to go see other people and then they have already done that dumb thing that should never have been done. And then you'll be able to fix it rather quickly without having to research. And, you know, it's really fun. Once you establish a good knowledge base, it's amazing what you can accomplish in 5 minutes can be equivalent to what someone would take them hours of trying and hacking around because you've already spent the time and you already have that knowledge. It's just calling back to that. And sometimes that's harder as you get older. Obviously, your memory starts to go. Initially, ChrisTitus.com was just a repository of issues I encountered in the field, and they might have been really complex to where I wouldn't be able to remember all the steps. So I would create articles on how to actually fix that problem. And that way, when it happened again in the future, usually on those complex problems, they would only come around like once every year or two, and then you'd already forget what the solution was. So that's a lot of the actual early day solutions. If you go into the archive at ChrisTitus.com, you'll notice a lot of them are more complex server issues that have a very, very niche audience, to say the least. Are you buying the 5900X? Yes, I'm going to see if they have like a 5950X. I don't know if they're actually going to release that chip, but if not, I will buying the 5900X. I'll be buying the higher end consumer grade. As most people know, all my stuff here is really, really budget. The highest chip I have is the Stream PC, and that's an AMD 2700X. That's my best chip I have in the studio. I bought that chip for $130 because it was closeout clearance. So really cool, but at this time, I see how much of a leap Zen 3 is, and it's worth the price of admission for me. So that's going to be the very first time I do a fresh build. The last fresh build I did was actually 2017, before YouTube, before any of that, was the last time I actually bought something out of the gate, and that was Ryzen 1. So I will be doing a higher end machine this time around, and it warrants it. Where a lot of times I usually wait for it to be a generation behind, as most times the improvement in or the performance increases aren't. You just can't justify buying the latest and greatest almost any of the time. Usually it's once in every 5 years that you get that opportunity to buy something that you know is going to be solid for at least a couple years, 2 to 3 years, which I anticipate Zen 3 sticking around and being a high performer for many years. So. And with that, guys, I think I'm going to go ahead and end this live stream. I like doing the weekly live streams, just doing a quick little news recap at the beginning, answering any of your questions. I love making these things. Be looking for those tutorial videos. I'm going to be doing more tutorial videos, kind of amping back up, slowly easing back into my production schedule, as I really just love creating those videos and making them more structured is always been a goal of mine, which I'm going to be working on in this upcoming bit. And, you know, thanks for all the great questions and the comments. Without your support in that regard, I could not come up with as many good ideas. I can't tell you how many great video ideas I've gotten from a comment that's left in a video. You probably noticed all my videos, I'm always like, hey, leave a comment. I don't just say that for some kind of algorithm trigger. I get a lot of the video ideas from y'all and from members messaging me, going, hey, I'm having this problem. I've had people going, hey, I can't access this. And what I've done is created 2 YouTube channels. This is the main one, which I've been a little dormant on, and I'm going to improve on that. But also I have the second one, Titus Tech Talk. And what I love about Titus Tech Talk, the secondary YouTube channel, is I can put anything up there. If it's just like a short how-to guide that's super niche that I know practically no one will watch, I like putting it over there. That way it expands the library. It doesn't really interfere with the channel metrics, and it addresses a lot of problems people have, but in a really short, condensed way. Think of it like, you know, Tech Quickie from like Linus Tech Tips, kind of that type of thing, but more tutorial based. So I like doing that for the really niche projects, and that's why I have like the 2 channels, is where that secondary channel I can just toss up anything I want. I don't have to worry about, hey, how is this going to perform? Are people going to click on this thumbnail? All the YouTube BS. I can just toss up whatever I want over there and not have to worry that, oh, it's going to bring down the channel and all that other BS. Where this one, I usually try to appeal to a lot of people with good tutorials that'll be able to, anybody interested in learning tech would be able to click on and use. But if it's something real niche, like I think a good example of what I'm talking about is Michael actually sent me a problem. He was having problems getting a 3D printer software working on Linux. Even though it had a Linux client, there were some dependency issues. and it was a good example of how to clear up a dependency issue in Linux. Not exactly mainstream kind of thing there, but still a fun thing to kind of tackle, and that's why I did it over on that secondary channel, which is great. So, I forgot to mention that, Hikari. Oh man, do I still have it on here? I think I took it off. Ad nauseum, I think, is what you're talking about. Ad nauseum's a fun little extension. Google hates it. They absolutely despise it. Ad nauseum, what it does is it actually opens up and clicks on every single ad. So every creator out there will love it if you use ad nauseum, because it'll actually click on every single different thing out in the existence, which is amazing. So what that does is the click-through rates go way up, and also just as an example, usually you get about 50 cents to $1 per click in just a regular website, and having ad nauseum inside and just visiting my website, I get like $1 every visit you have, or about there, $1 per day, basically. It's a fun way to basically blow out people's budgets and AdWords and just really destroy the advertising on the internet. But some people, I love the idea of the extension and breaking that misinformation mold where all the stuff that you're interested in, now no one knows what the heck you're interested in because you literally click on everything. It's a funny troll extension for advertisers where it just messes with people and puts out a ton of misinformation, but it also supports a ton of people and really uses up a lot of ad revenue while blocking the ads as well. Yeah, good point, Hikari. But all right, guys. Well, thank you all for stopping in. It's always fun to have these chats. If I missed any questions, by all means, you can message me, or members. Usually I go through and check out your guys' comments at least once a week. And then over on christitus.com, you can always go to the portal and message me directly through there as well. So with that, I hope you all have a fantastic weekend, and I'll see y'all next week. Again, be looking for those videos coming out this weekend. I've loved getting back into more of the tried and true videos I've been doing the whole past year, and starting to get back in the groove of things, which is going to be a lot of fun. I just love that. So have a good one all. See y'all later.